Imagine a code written so deeply into your DNA that it predates the invention of the wheel, the forging of metal, and the birth of written language. If you were to take a group of humans, wipe their memories completely, and isolate them on an untouched island, they would eventually do three things. They would learn to make fire. They would invent a language to speak to one another. And, inevitably, they would look up at the endless night sky and seek the divine. For centuries, modern historians believed they understood the strict timeline of human civilization. The story was simple and deeply arrogant. We were wandering hunters who eventually figured out how to plant seeds. Farming gave us a surplus of food, which allowed us to build cities. And once we had cities, we invented the concept of the sacred to explain the weather and keep the population in line. But a monumental discovery in the dusty hills of Turkey shattered that timeline completely. Archaeologists unearthed Göbekli Tepe, a massive, incredibly complex temple composed of towering stone pillars, precisely carved with intricate, bizarre creatures. It is an architectural marvel, and it was built thousands of years before the invention of agriculture. This single discovery turned everything we knew about human nature upside down. Humans did not settle down to farm and then invent the sacred. We settled down because we felt an overwhelming, undeniable urge to worship something greater than ourselves together, and we simply had to figure out how to feed the builders. The temple came first, the city came second. This profound urge is not an accident, and it is not a cultural coincidence. It is a universal human software. Across the globe, ancient civilizations that never met, separated by massive oceans and impassable mountains, all independently looked at the universe and concluded that it was not an accident. They all built massive structures pointing directly toward the sky. They all developed profound, complex understandings of a reality beyond the physical world. From the deepest jungles to the frozen tundras, anthropologists have never found a single ancient society that lacked a deeply rooted sense of the sacred. It is a persistent, undeniable hunger for meaning that goes far beyond mere survival. You were born with this instinct. It is the oldest compass in the human mind. But if this profound connection to the unseen is our default human setting, where did it go? Why does the modern world feel so heavy, so hollowed out, and so disconnected from that ancient, awe-inspiring mystery? Because your oldest, most fundamental instinct was not just forgotten. It was stolen from you. The theft did not happen overnight. There was no sudden invasion. No violent robbery of the human mind to remove the concept of the divine. Instead, it was a slow, quiet, and blindingly bright replacement. For countless generations, the night sky was the greatest canvas of the human imagination. It was a terrifying, breathtaking reminder of our tiny place in an infinitely vast design. But then, we built the modern world. We invented artificial light to block out the stars. We constructed towering ceilings of concrete and steel, so we would never have to look up. We traded the vast, whispering mystery of the cosmos for the glowing, hypnotic glare of screens. We entered the age of absolute materialism. We began to measure the exact weight of a mountain, the precise speed of sound, and the microscopic structure of a leaf. We convinced ourselves that if we could pull the universe apart into tiny, measurable pieces, we would finally understand it. The prevailing belief became that the universe is nothing more than a cold, dead machine, a giant, accidental clockwork of atoms crashing into each other in the dark. And in this new, hyper-calculated world, the ancient instinct for the sacred was branded as a primitive weakness. A fairy tale our ancestors used to explain thunderstorms and winter frosts. We were told to grow up, to put away childish things. We were told that progress had finally cured us of the need to look for a higher meaning. But you cannot surgically remove a fundamental piece of human nature without causing catastrophic bleeding. When you take an animal born to roam endless plains and lock it inside a sterile concrete cage, it does not simply adjust. It goes mad. It paces the floor. It bites at the iron bars. It feels a deep, agonizing phantom pain for a horizon it can no longer see, but instinctively knows should be there. Humanity is currently pacing the floor of a very shiny, technologically advanced cage. The modern world promised us that if we just gathered enough data, built enough wealth, and connected enough wires, we would finally feel complete. It offered us endless comfort, constant entertainment, and the illusion of absolute control. But it actively suppressed the one thing the human mind was literally designed to seek: a purpose that transcends the physical body. The compass inside you is still spinning wildly. The instinct is still there, screaming quietly beneath the deafening noise of the modern machine. We are starving for the divine, but we have forgotten what food looks like. So, we try to feed that massive ancient hunger with something else. And what we chose to fill that void is quietly tearing us apart. When you tear down the temple, the urge to worship does not simply vanish. The altar does not disappear. It merely sits empty, waiting desperately for a new idol. Humans are not capable of being truly secular. We are biological worship machines. It is woven into our very fibers. So, when the modern age stripped away the infinite, we did not stop worshiping. We just started worshiping the finite. We took the profound, overwhelming devotion that was meant for the creator of the cosmos, and we aimed it at things that break, decay, and ultimately disappoint. We began to worship productivity, sacrificing the brightest years of our youth to chase digits on a screen, believing that enough wealth would finally build a wall high enough to keep mortality out. We began to worship political tribes and ideologies, defending our chosen factions with the exact same furious, unbending zeal that ancient priests once used to defend their sacred fires. We turned politicians into saviors and differing opinions into absolute heresy. We began to worship ourselves. We built glowing digital shrines dedicated to our own faces, curating perfectly manufactured lives, and begging thousands of passing strangers to validate our existence with a fleeting tap on a glass screen. But these are broken containers. They cannot hold the massive, crushing weight of the human soul. When you attempt to pour an infinite desire for meaning into a finite, temporary cup, the cup shatters every single time. This is the silent tragedy of our era. This is why, despite living in the safest, warmest, most technologically miraculous period in the history of our species, we are drowning in an ocean of quiet despair. We have eradicated ancient diseases. We can fly across oceans in a matter of hours, and we hold the entire sum of human knowledge in the palms of our hands. Yet, a thick, suffocating fog of anxiety hangs over the modern world. We have explored the pitch-black trenches of the ocean floor and mapped the frozen edges of the observable universe, but we feel completely, terrifyingly lost inside our own minds. We are a society that has everything to live with, but absolutely nothing to live for. The cold, dead machine of the material universe cannot offer you grace. A smartphone cannot forgive you. A bank account cannot provide you with a profound sense of peace when you are lying awake in the quiet hours of the night, wondering what the point of all this actually is. We tried to outsmart our own nature. We tried to replace the eternal with the artificial, and the experiment failed. The phantom pain is becoming too loud to ignore. We are beginning to realize that the missing piece of the human puzzle is not something we can invent, buy, or download. We are waking up from the grand illusion. The realization is slowly, painfully washing over us that the material world, no matter how shiny or advanced, is simply not enough. It was never meant to be. When you look at the absolute, terrifying precision of the universe, the delicate, mathematical balance of gravity that keeps planets from crashing into one another, the microscopic, impossibly complex coding hidden inside a single strand of DNA, the modern world asks you to believe that it is all a colossal, random accident. It asks you to look at a breathtaking masterpiece and violently deny that there was ever a painter. But your deepest intuition knows better. Your intellect, when stripped of modern arrogance, recognizes that a design so flawless, so intricately balanced, demands a designer. When you strip away the historical conflicts, the cultural noise, and the human errors that have muddied the waters over millennia, you are left with a singular, unavoidable truth. The fundamental concept of religion is the only framework that actually makes sense of the human condition. The recognition of a higher, intentional power is the only lens through which our fierce desire for justice, our capacity for profound love, and our agonizing search for purpose are not just random biological glitches, but intentional features of our design. The ancient compass inside your chest is not broken. It is a receiver. And it has been picking up a signal since the moment you took your first breath. There is a reality vastly beyond the physical world. There is an unseen, profound dimension to our existence. A massive truth that we currently have almost no knowledge of. Our science and our senses are brilliant tools, but they are limited. We are standing on the shore of a cosmic ocean, trying to understand the depth of the water by staring at a single grain of sand. The material universe we can touch and measure is just the outer, fragile shell of something infinitely deeper. The modern age tried to steal this realization from you. It tried to convince you that the physical world is all there is, that your consciousness is just a chemical trick, and that the end of your life is simply a screen fading to black. But the unyielding phantom pain in your soul proves that you belong to something greater. You were built for the eternal. It is time to stop trying to fill an infinite void with temporary things. It is time to acknowledge the hunger for what it actually is. The ultimate answers you are looking for will never be found in the endless, numb scrolling of a screen, the frantic accumulation of wealth, or the deafening noise of modern society. They exist exactly where they have always existed, in the quiet, terrifying, and beautiful realization that you are not a cosmic accident. There is a truth waiting to be uncovered, a reality that explains why you are here. The blueprint is still in your blood. The instinct survived the theft. You just have to be brave enough to look up, acknowledge the vast unknown, and finally begin the search.